Revenge films.
My name is Kevin. I've been married to my wife, Karen, for 2 years now. And since we didn't have children yet, we were both working full-time. I was working as a salaryman, and my wife was also working at a company. But along with the CEO, everybody in her office was female. Then one day, my wife said out of nowhere that she had a company trip coming up. She said they were going to Hawaii and that she wouldn't be home for 2 to 3 days. If that really was a company trip, then it was definitely fine. But to be honest, recently I was starting to suspect my wife of having an affair, so I wasn't able to sincerely believe her. As for why I was suspecting my wife of having an affair, one reason was because she was a lot more cold in her words and actions towards me, and also because she would come home late saying that she was working overtime, and then go straight to take a shower. My wife always had a bit of a lazy personality, and ever since we got married, as soon as she came home from work, she was the type to dive straight onto the sofa, but for some reason, she started going straight to the shower. I thought this was suspicious, so one time, while my wife was taking a bath, I decided to pick up the clothes that she was wearing. When I took a sniff, I could smell the faint trace of male cologne. That was when my suspicion grew. Immediately after that, I picked up my wife's phone and I looked into it. She hadn't locked the phone or any apps, and perhaps she had erased all of the evidence already because I wasn't able to find anything that could prove my suspicions. I had never been to my wife's workplace, and I don't know any of her colleagues either, so there was no way for me to investigate whether the company trip was true or not. I thought that maybe it was just my misunderstanding, and I was wrong for suspecting my wife. But not too long after that, I met up with a friend that I hadn't seen in a while, who told me this. That friend told me that the other day, he went to go see a movie with his wife that just came out, and that he saw me at the movie theater that day. However, I didn't go to the movies anytime recently, and I was thinking how strange it was. But then at that moment, I remembered that the other day, my wife told me that she was going to see a movie with one of her colleagues from work. I asked my friend the title of the movie that he went to see, and he confirmed that it was the same one that my wife told me she watched that day. My wife told me that she only had female colleagues in her workplace, and so it was strange why my friend said he thought he saw me there. When I asked him why he thought it was me, he said that it was because he saw Karen at the movie theater and assumed that the man that she was with was me, especially because she was holding hands with a guy and arm in arm with him, and the only person that she would be like that must be her husband. Me. But my friend said that he didn't see my face. He only saw my wife with that man. When I heard those words, my suspicions that my wife was having an affair grew exponentially. However, even if my wife actually was having an affair, she had done a great job of erasing all messaging history and any traces on her phone thereof. So at this point, I had no concrete evidence of any affair. I had the option of going to a detective agency and hiring a detective to find evidence for me, but since she said that she was going on a company trip to Hawaii, I decided that that would be the perfect place for me to collect the evidence myself. I just so happened to have a friend who was on a long-term business trip to Hawaii, so I immediately called him and explained the situation to him. He quickly agreed to let me stay with him for a few days, so that I could look into my wife's affair. After that, I sent my wife off, who seemed on cloud 9 about this vacation she was about to go on. Before my wife left, I had already installed a GPS app into her cell phone, and then hid the app so that she wouldn't notice it. I got on the airplane after my wife and set off for Hawaii. As soon as I got there, I dropped my luggage off at my friend's house, and I followed the GPS to my wife. And just as I had expected, my wife was indeed having an affair. I didn't see a single other employee from her company with her, but instead, she was walking arm in arm and looked like she was having a great time with the singular male. That was when I picked up my phone and I messaged my wife, asking her to send me a photo from Hawaii. I watched her pull out her phone, read the message, and then reply to me. It said that there were a lot of colleagues that she was with that didn't want their photos taken, so that she couldn't take a photo right now. When I saw those words, that was when I confirmed that she was in fact cheating on me, and so this time, I decided to call her. After a few short rings, she picked up. Looks like you're having fun.
Of course I am. There's a trip with all girls, so of course it's going to be fun. I love all of my colleagues.
Interesting. Actually, funny enough, I'm also in Hawaii right now.
What? Oh, come on. Cut it out with the jokes again, Kevin.
No, this isn't a joke. I can actually see you really well from where I am right now.
What are you saying?
From afar, I could see my wife clearly starting to panic, and I thought that this was the perfect timing for me to show up. And so, I walked right over to where my wife was. As soon as she saw me, my wife turned completely pale, standing next to the man she was cheating on me with. After that, just as any template, she started saying things like, "What are you doing here? This isn't what it looks like," as she tried to make excuses and apologize to me at the same time. However, when I arrived at Hawaii, and I saw my wife enjoying herself that much with another man right in front of my eyes, I could feel any love I had towards her disappearing, and no matter what my wife said, I didn't feel anything. I've already got plenty of photos of the two of you having an affair, so you're welcome to do as you please for the rest of your time here. But well, when you come back, there isn't a house for you to live in anymore.
What?
I took a few videos of the two of you having a great time while I was following you, and I've already sent that to my parents and your parents. I plan on sending it to my lawyer as well after this. Oh, and of course, I'm going to be collecting a settlement fee from that guy right there, so I hope you're both ready. When that guy heard those words, he stood there in shock, unable to say a word. After that, my wife left the guy standing there and ran over to me, dropping down on her knees and apologizing and sobbing. She didn't care that we were in public. She grabbed onto my legs and was begging me not to divorce her. But I had already decided, and my feelings were already set, so I left her on the spot, and I hopped into a taxi to go back to my friend's house. When I got there, I showed my friend the evidence that I was able to gather of my wife cheating on me, but he did his best to cheer me up. "This is a good thing. With this, you can officially put an end to it," he said. The next day, I thanked my friend for his help in letting me stay at his place, and I flew back home on the first flight in the morning. I had missed a few calls from Karen's parents, so once I arrived to the airport, I decided to go straight to their house. However, Karen had already gotten there before me. It seemed that Karen had tried to get to them first, so that they would be on her side, and to get their help to get out of the divorce. But after seeing my wife having an affair in front of my eyes, I didn't have any desire to live any minute of the rest of my life with her. So I pulled out the divorce papers that I had already prepared. But that was when my father-in-law said, "Is there any way that you can forgive her? Look at Karen! She regrets what she did, and she'll never do it again!" My father-in-law tried to ask for my forgiveness, but it was obvious to me that he was trying to avoid the divorce because he was worried about how it would reflect on his family. "I'm sorry, but I don't have any intention of having any relationship with your daughter anymore. Even if I left somebody who betrayed me once like this by my side, for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to think about whether she's going to cheat on me again or not. And when I think about it like that, it's impossible to continue being married to her."
I swear I'll never cheat on you again, so please think this over.
Karen and her parents kept begging me, and they didn't even try to sign the divorce papers. We weren't getting anywhere, so for that day, I decided to go home, and I left Karen at her parents' house. Well, even if she tried to come back home with me, I wouldn't have let her in the house anyway. Then before I left, I asked Karen who that man was and where he worked. She only gave me his name, so I started to do my research from there. That was when I found out that he was the younger brother of the CEO of my wife's company. It turns out that he was single, but that his sister, the CEO, didn't know that the two of them were having their affair. When I told her about it, she immediately dragged her little brother into her office and threw him down onto the ground in front of me. She was furious, and I was wondering why the CEO was so furious, even after throwing her little brother in front of my feet. But then we found out that this man was using the help of my wife, who was working in the administrative office of the company, and she was helping him to embezzle company money. Of course, that all came back around to Karen, and when her parents found out about that, that was the final straw for them, and they left Karen's side, and I was able to smoothly get a divorce from her without any objections. After that, I collected a full settlement fee from both Karen and her boyfriend, and after the divorce went through, I heard that Karen and the CEO's little brother were arrested, and of course, they were sentenced to prison after that for the embezzlement. It goes without saying that my wife was fired from the company a long time ago. When I first suspected my wife of having an affair, the first thing I checked were the bank statements, and I didn't see that any suspicious money was being withdrawn from our account, but it turned out that she was embezzling money from her own company, and that's why there's no need for her to go into her own accounts. She must have recognized that if she was withdrawing money from her own family account, then it would heighten the risk of her affair being discovered, and so, that must be why she decided to embezzle company money. But that was a crystal clear crime. I truly feel terrible for the CEO of Karen's former company. I'm sure she never could have imagined that her younger brother and her own employee would be embezzling money whilst also having an affair. I later found out that they had used hundreds of thousands of dollars. Karen must have thought that because the person embezzling the money was the little brother, and all she did was help out a little bit, I'm sure she never dreamt that she would be getting into trouble for that. And that's why I heard that when the police arrived at her house, she threw a tantrum that this had nothing to do with her, and she ended up being dragged to the police station. But how stupid can she be, thinking that things would go so easily for her? When I got married, of course, I also wanted to have children. But after everything that happened, I think it was really fortunate that we didn't have any children between us yet. If we did have kids, even if my wife and I got divorced, it would mean that our child would have to be the child of a criminal, and that thought is too terrible to bear. I don't know if I'll have another chance at becoming a husband and a father again, but if and when that opportunity ever comes to me, I can only hope that the next woman that I meet is a sincere and honest partner.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.